You know, some people are known by one name. This man had two, and boy, do they tell a story. To his own people, he was Lokmanya, the one accepted by all. But to the British Empire, they called him the father of Indian unrest. So today, we're diving into the story of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, a man caught between these two powerful titles, all because of one single explosive idea.
Okay, I want you to picture this. The year is 1908. We're in Bombay, and it's pouring rain late at night. Thousands of people are gathered outside the High Court. Inside, it's tense. You've got mounted police standing guard as this one man, a journalist, a teacher, is on trial for sedition. And his crime? Writing articles. That's it. Articles the government decided were a danger to the country. The stakes? Well, they could be any higher.
So, what was his great crime? It all came down to this one powerful statement. Swaraj is my birthright, and I shall have it. Swaraj. It means self-rule. But this wasn't just some catchy slogan. Oh no, this was a declaration of war against the British Raj. It was a single phrase that would come to define his entire life and his entire legacy.
So how does one man become both a beloved leader and a feared revolutionary? I mean, how do you get a nickname like the Father of Unrest? Well, it turns out this all started way back with a sense of justice that was baked into him from the very beginning.
Let's break down these two titles. For Indians, he was Lokmanya. And that's not just a name, it's a huge honor. It means the one accepted by the people as their leader. But for the British, it was the complete opposite. To them, all that popularity just made him a massive threat. He wasn't a leader, he was the guy stirring the pot, the one fanning the flames of rebellion.
And you can see this defiant streak in him even when he was just a kid. There's this great story about him in school. So, get this, a teacher gets mad about some ground nut shells on the floor and threatens to punish the entire class for one person's mess. Tilak just stands up and says, "Nope, that's not fair." He calmly grabs his books and just walks out. As a kid, he would not bend to what he saw as unfair authority.
So that rebellious kid grows up, and that same spirit, it becomes his entire strategy. See, Tilak knew you couldn't just fight a political battle. You had to win the battle for hearts and minds first. He believed that to get self-rule, Indians first needed to be educated in their own culture, not in the values of the colonizers.
And he didn't waste a second. I mean, just look at this timeline. In just 5 years, he and his friends built the entire foundation for a new movement. Boom, a new school. Boom, 2 newspapers, then an education society, and finally a college. What he's doing here is brilliant. He's building an entire alternative system to teach young Indians to be proud of who they were, not just cogs in the imperial machine.
His newspapers were his primary weapons. You had Kesari, which means the lion, in Marathi, and it was exactly that, a roar. It was a megaphone to the masses, calling for self-rule, for boycotting foreign goods, all of it. But then you have Maratha in English. That was his surgical tool. It was calm, it was reasoned, and it was aimed right at the English-speaking elite, making the case on their own terms. 2 very different voices, but one single revolutionary goal.
And this quote right here, it tells you everything about how he saw his job. He saw journalists as a kind of night patrol for the nation. He's basically saying that a free press is just as vital as the police. It's there to keep an eye on the government, to hold power accountable, and to make sure they know someone is always watching.
Okay, so he's got the schools, he's got the newspapers, but that's still reaching a certain kind of person. How do you get to everyone? This is where Tilak's real genius kicks in. He looked for a platform the British would never even think to monitor, a religious festival.
And what he does is just absolutely brilliant. Before Tilak, the Ganesh festival was this quiet, one-day thing you did at home with your family. After Tilak gets his hands on it in 1893, it becomes this massive 10-day public explosion of culture and politics. Suddenly, the streets are packed with parades, patriotic songs, and fiery political speeches, bringing together people from every walk of life.
And he wasn't done. A couple of years later, he does the same thing with the Shivaji festival. He holds up this legendary Maratha king, who famously fought off invaders, as a historical role model. The message was crystal clear: we've fought off foreign rule before, and we can do it again. He was taking culture and religion and turning them into powerful, modern political tools.
Now, this whole strategy was working. I mean, it was really working. But it was also causing some major problems inside the main nationalist party at the time, the Indian National Congress.
So, inside the Congress, you basically have 2 teams.
First, you've got the moderates. Their whole philosophy was, let's be patient, let's write polite letters, let's work within the system. And then you have Tilak's crew, the extremists, and they were like, nope, we are done waiting, we want action, we want boycotts, and we want self-rule right now.
And this all just boils over in 1907, at the big annual meeting in the city of Surat. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. There's all this backroom dealing. The moderates are trying to shut Tilak out, and the extremists are feeling completely sidelined. It was, a powder keg just waiting for a spark. So Tilak gets up to speak, and he's immediately shouted down. But he refuses to back down. The entire hall just erupts into total chaos. And then someone throws a shoe. A shoe! It flies through the air and hits the stage right where the moderate leaders are sitting. And that's it. It's over. The great Indian National Congress splits, right down the middle.
You can just imagine the British watching all this, right? For them, this was a gift. The nationalist movement is fighting with itself, and that's when they make their move. With his enemies divided, they decide it's time to silence the most radical voice of all. They arrest Tilak for sedition.
So what did they finally get him on? Articles. In his paper Kesari, he defended two young revolutionaries. He didn't condone their violence, but he argued that British oppression was the root cause of it all. For that, the court gave him 6 years. 6 years in the infamous Mandalay prison in Burma. But here's the thing about Tilak. You can lock him in a cell, but you absolutely cannot lock up his mind. While stuck in that prison, he writes his 400-page masterpiece, a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. He reads more than 400 books. He learns not one, but 2 new languages, French and German. And he does all of this while dealing with the heartbreaking news delivered by letter that his wife had passed away back home.
He's finally released in 1914. His health isn't great, but his spirit is as strong as ever. And he comes back to an India that's getting dragged into World War I. And what does he do? He gets right back to work, trying to stitch the movement back together.
He doesn't miss a beat. He pushes to heal the split in the Congress. In 1916, he helps put together the incredible Lucknow Pact, a landmark deal for Hindu-Muslim cooperation. He starts the All India Home Rule League. I mean, the man just does not stop. He successfully took his core idea, Swaraj, and made it the ultimate goal for pretty much everyone.
Tilak passed away in 1920, right as a new leader, Mahatma Gandhi, was stepping onto the national stage. So he never got to see a free India, but there is no question he was one of its chief architects. And that leaves us with this really big, complicated question to think about. By using Hindu festivals in history, he managed to unite millions. But was that a necessary tool to fight a common enemy? Or did that brilliant strategy also create some complex fault lines that would challenge a diverse India for decades to come? That's a tough one, and it's something history is still debating today.